ever stare down at a more or less complex orchestral score and at some point you just feel overwhelmed? You spend hours in the score, you spend hours analyzing, but then when it comes to rehearsals, some details inevitably slip away. It's frustrating, right? But what if there was a way to transform the score in your personal roadmap? Something clear and concise that can give you some help in remembering and memorizing and acquiring, digesting the music and having it ready when you need it to be. Hello everyone, I'm Gianmaria. I'm a conductor and a composer, and I welcome you to this new episode of Conductors. If you're new here, this channel is all about classical music, conducting in particular, and conducting technique, analysis of scores, and everything that goes around it. If you have any questions, just put them down in the comments. I will do my best to answer them in one of my next videos. Now, let's keep going. Now, I did have, at some point, a teacher that told me that marking the score was something pretty much ridiculous or something useless, that you should have the score in your head and there was no point in doing any marking. Now, while I do agree with the fact that you should have the score in your head and never the head in your score, that is not, for me at least, a good enough reason not to mark the score. In order to get the score in your head, you also need to have a way to do so. And in this respect, whichever method you can cook up to help you out in memorizing the score and putting it in your head is more than welcome. I gotta tell you that things for me changed along the years, and I used to mark scores much more heavily than I do nowadays. I suppose some of this also comes with experience, and also some of this comes with, by doing it, and then you automate some things in your brain, in your head, and then you don't need to do them anymore. Maybe not with the same heaviness that you used to. Nevertheless, I still do mark my scores from time to time, especially if it's a new score and maybe it's a piece of new music, never been performed before, it's for a premiere. Starting from scratch, I took a score that I marked some 20 years ago now. Specifically, it's the Bartók Concerto for Orchestra, and I'm gonna show you what it is that I put down and how I did it, and maybe you can use some of these tips to your own advantage and try it out and see how it goes for you. Now, my thinking, my experience is that marking the score is going to help you internalize the score, and then in return is going to help you out communicating your vision with crystal clarity to the orchestra. One of the first things that I look at is the scoring. So basically how many sections there are. Of course, in a case like this, where you have a fairly big scoring, then you have different sections, namely woodwinds, brass, percussion, and strings. Those are the main ones that you normally find. So once you have the scoring down, the order of the sections and of the instruments in the score is always the same. It doesn't change, it's a standard. However, the thing is that in order to use less space on a page, it's also standard that when a section doesn't play, then it's not even printed. Therefore, you find yourself in a situation like this one, where you have, for instance, the violins beyond the strings, violins, violas, cellos, and double basses, and one line for the flutes at the top. At some point, you find yourself with the oboes, clarinets, and horns coming in. Now, as a general habit, I use colored pencils. And mind you, this is not written any place. This is something that works for me. I made it up for myself, and I'm sure others have done the same or have similar approaches. And you can find your own, what works for you better in this case. But what works for me is choose a color for dynamics, choose a different color, of course, for cues, another one for tempos. So for instance, the tempos I always mark in green. The dynamics for me are marked in red, and the cues are marked in blue. You will find this everywhere in my scores, more or less, always with the same approach. So I always have the green for this, the green for the tempo or for the meter change. I have red for dynamics and blue for cues. Sometimes, like in this case, I also put the name or the initials of the instrument next to the cue. That is because it's not always clear on a first study who's playing what. I add these things on purpose. They help me memorize things. They're a point of reference. Another point of reference that I have is this line, which I put below, either below the woodwinds or generally below the horns or above the trumpets. And therefore I divide the woodwinds plus horns from the rest of the orchestra. Again, this is not something that is standardized or that it is written anywhere. I just do it like this because I found out that it helps me out. And another thing that really helps me out when I approach a score is to start with the big picture. So start analyzing the score. What kind of structure are we looking at? Is it the formal sonata? Is it a minuet? Is it whatever it is? It doesn't matter, but analyze the structure and see what the big picture is. Then reduce gradually and go inside. That means I find the phrasing. So I see that the phrase, take a look here, ends here, here's another phrase, and I draw a line, reinforcing the bar line basically with a pencil. If the piece is in one and you can group bars in order to give clarity to the structure and to the phrasing itself, then I also mark it on top. This is 2-bar phrase, 2-bar phrase, 3-bar phrase, 3-bar phrase, 3-bar phrase, and then it becomes bit by bit. You add one detail on top of the other. My suggestion is start with one thing at a time. You look at the structure, okay, is it a formal sonata? Then we have an exposition, a development, and a recapitulation. Maybe we also have an introduction and a coda. But we have these 3 sections that are the main ones. Then take the exposition, work your way in, start again from the beginning and say, okay, well, this is the first period. Inside the first period, we have this first phrase, this second phrase, first phrase ends here. Now, if we reduce again, we might have more in the phrasing that help us. Then you move on to, of course, the tempo, the dynamics. And then you connect the dynamics also with an entrance. You say, oh, wait a second, here we're moving from the first part of the phrase to the second part of the phrase, and the flute is coming in. But the flute is coming in, so I need to cue the flute, but on what dynamic? Oh, the flute is playing mezzo forte. Okay, so let's connect that part as well. You add all of these details, one on top of the other, and all of this make up your map. The map that drives you literally through the score from one point to the other, to the other, to the other, from the beginning to the end. That's how you create the image of the score in your head, and that's how you approach even complex pieces like this one, which is certainly not the easiest of the thing that you can have to conduct, that you can find yourself conducting. And you can approach them in a structured manner. You break them piece by piece, and then all of a sudden you're not overwhelmed anymore. You start remembering more things. Of course, you have to put in the work to go in and study things, go back to it, repeat, rinse and repeat, go back again, study again, try it again, add more details, and so forth. You can't learn these by listening or watching to a YouTube videos. It doesn't work that way. You really need to put in the work. But the point is that in order to put in the work, you can help yourself with a structured method. And this is what I use myself, and this is working very well for me. So I hope it can inspire you to find your own method, perhaps, or use part of this and rework it in a way that works for you. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you find this discussion about marking the score interesting, and I hope it's going to help you out with all these different points and tips on how to memorize and how to digest a score in an easier way. And for understanding better and for other practicing tips, then head over to my website where you can find a lot of articles and a lot of related videos. If you have any questions or doubts, put them down in the comments. I will see you in the next video of Conducting Pills. Till then, enjoy conducting, enjoy practicing, enjoy music, and be kind to yourself. Ciao.